These are my emotions on the wall.
Getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
I'm just trying to be out here, do my part, contribute in the best way I can, and hopefully inspire people who are walking these beautiful streets of Chicago.
Dwight White, originally from Houston, Texas, have been in Chicago for the past 8 to 9 years. What I do here is, for me, it's all about creativity. Spent the last 3 to 4 years actually working in marketing and insights. So that's really all about understanding consumers at a really deep level. But I'm able to still apply that knowledge in what I do as a creator now. So really, my job is kind of broken out into 3 pillars. One of those being I am an artist. So I utilize, paint resources and different mediums to create, to tell stories, a lot of times on canvas or through murals out on the streets for the public to see. The second pillar is I'm an insights professional because I did work in marketing. I have a pretty deep understanding of consumers, their behaviors, how they think, and why they purchase products. So I think that's actually one of the things that makes me a little bit more unique sometimes as an artist, is that I do have that background. And then lastly, where I came from was from athletics. So before I was an artist, before I even considered this as a career option, my number one goal was to eventually play professional football, or at least finish out my college career. And so that suddenly came to an end due to an injury, and is why I turned to creativity earlier in my life than I was probably expecting to. But the beautiful thing about it is that because I am a former athlete, I've been able to kind of merge all of my passions and art and creativity, insights, marketing, and I've now kind of positioned myself as more of a creative consultant in the business world. So I can kind of do what I want at this point when it comes to working with brands, organizations, whether it's we're working together to create a mural or we're working together to come up with a creative campaign. So that's a little bit about me. It's been quite the journey. I think over the past several years of my life, deep down inside of me, maybe not even that deep down, I knew that I was coming into taking the leap of faith to become a full-time creator. And what that looked like for me is what took me a long time to figure out. It was never at the snap of a finger. It was like, I'm just gonna go try being an artist without a plan. Like, there's some things you can't plan for, some things that you're never gonna 100% be ready for. But for me, strategy is everything. And so I took my previous jobs, roles, career, and school very seriously, especially from the time I was in grad school, studying more of integrated marketing and communications, all the way through my first 3 years at the Kraft Heinz company, working in insights. I was always digesting information, not knowing exactly what I was doing with it, but I knew my passion was art. My passion wasn't, food necessarily, which is the things that I marketed and branded a lot of times. Don't get me wrong, I love food, probably more than almost anything else in the world. But in terms of my career, that's not where I saw myself going. And so as I was digesting all this information, I began to start to apply it to art. Not in the sense of the way it looked, but more so the depth that it has, the meaning that's behind my art, what influences it. A lot of my work are portraits, so it's based on people. And for me, when I'm studying and telling stories about people, it's all about telling truths. Do what you do now, or do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. Like, I had to go work corporate. I had to learn those certain skill sets because that's where I was in life, right? But where I was able to take those things and apply them later was solely because I embraced where I was at the time. I knew I wasn't in a position to be a full-time creator. And that's not to say you can't do that at 18 years old. I just couldn't. So when I was ready to take that leap, I was able to embrace all those things. I learned, embrace the position I was once in as a former athlete, as a former corporate marketer, and be like, now it's time for me to go be an artist. Now I'm gonna take all those things and all those shared experiences I had with teammates, whether it's in the athletic space or a corporate space, and now I'm gonna share that with my new future teammates, my operations manager, my photographers, videographers, people in the creative space. We're gonna use those same skills and those same methodologies. Probably a lot of our parents and uncles and aunties from past generations always said it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And that's real. That's real. It is about who you know, but you got to know your stuff. And so everywhere I go, I carry with me my past experiences. The things that have inspired me most has been being able to interact and engage with new people. And so when I first got the opportunity to start traveling globally abroad as I got older, I was truly fascinated by different people, different cultures, and different opportunities that the world presented me with. And so one of my main priorities, one of my main goals in life was to actually be able to start working internationally or allowing my artwork to speak for me on a global scale. And so that was a huge part of 2020 for me. I got the opportunity to go overseas to the UK. And although we were mid-pandemic and I didn't get an opportunity to travel to all parts of Europe that I imagined, it was a huge stepping stone for me in terms of understanding a different culture, a different world even. I think people assume for a place like England, because they speak English like we do here in America, that it'll be a very similar type of experience. But even when it comes to what's culturally relevant here versus there, completely different world. For example, I've met a good amount of black people over there, and you have to realize they're not primarily African American. There are a lot of different ethnicities, and so just even that experience alone just showed me that you can't bucket any one group of type of people into one space. Everybody's different. Everyone has different learned and shared experiences. So I think global thinking is huge. Even when we're on our own soil, being able to think about different people through their lens and step into their shoes is forever going to be an important skill and an asset to have. I see myself as a citizen of the world. I don't, for some reason, and even for as long as I've lived here in Chicago, I've never stayed in a single place for over a year. That sounds really crazy now to think about, but I think it's because I'm not necessarily a creature of habit, and that's something I've been trying to get better at, is again being a little bit more comfortable where I am sometimes and riding things out a little bit longer. But I'm always on the move, I'm always on the go, and I'm always fascinated by what's new and different. And so I think that's how I think even when it comes to my place, I'm always working towards my dream home or my dream art studio. So until I get there, I'll probably keep moving. So a couple of things I want to leave you all with as we start wrapping up here. One thing that I've been thinking about lately since this question was prompted to me was, what's your superpower? I think we all were fans of cartoons. We all have celebrities that we find to be fascinating that are all really good at something. And so what are you really good at? For me, when I think about my superpower, it's usually something around adaptability. I feel like in most environments, in most settings, in most situations that I'm put in, whether I know they're coming or if they come unexpectedly, I've traditionally been able to adapt and move with the flow. And so I think that's a superpower. That's something that not everybody has, right? Not everyone's comfortable in situations far away from home from their family or changing career paths. But as you can see, I'm an artist. So to be an artist, a lot of times that requires being okay with change and being able to tap in with the unexpected. So that's one thing I want to leave you with. Another thing is this phrase I tell myself all the time, which kind of goes back to the point I was just making, is around getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And so in times in life, you're going to get extremely uncomfortable. People are going to try you. They're going to press you. And just the world, how it works. You're oftentimes, as you get older, you get in a lot of different heated type of situations that aren't always going to be easy, and they're going to be uncomfortable. But I would just encourage all of you to stay encouraged, stay locked in on your goals, on your focus, and continue to utilize your superpowers. So another question I'm going to leave you all with, or I'm going to challenge you with, because I'm still working through this one myself, right, is what are you the best in the world at? It's a little bit different than what your superpower is. I think a lot of people can share a common superpower, right? However, when you think about what makes you the greatest, what makes you the GOAT, what makes you untouchable in some way, right? Ask yourself, what are you the best in the world at? Because I'm still thinking on that pretty much on a daily basis. What's my point of differentiation, but also what's gonna put me in a place of excellence, right? What am I gonna push so hard at that I've mastered? What can you master and what can you then own? Ownability is one of the most powerful assets you can have in business, in art, or in anything you do, is owning something. And so I would encourage all of the young creators out there, young people in general, to go after whatever you want and go own that thing. What's next? For me, you know, there's a lot going on currently. I would say in my first full year as a full-time creator, and you know, taking the leap of faith to go abroad and to travel, start to see different parts of the world. That's something I want to continue doing. I want to continue pushing my boundaries beyond what I ever knew I was capable of achieving. So what's next for me is just continuing to be a great creator, be a great teammate to those around me. It's to continue to tap into my soul. And, you know, when it comes to projects that are upcoming, I'm getting my first opportunity to curate a show. And that show is really going to highlight Black creators. And the coolest thing about it is that, one, there's a lot of Black creators in my network. But two, I get to collaborate with all the people I've been, you know, building with up to this point. Like, how can we start to collaborate, work together, and do something dope in the city of Chicago? And hopefully that can expand elsewhere. So, you know, that's one thing that's upcoming. And then in Chicago, it's mural season. So as soon as the weather gets nice, the expectation is that you pick up your supplies and execute as many projects as possible. So you'll see me out here in the streets, bringing some really dope projects to life over the next however many weeks through the spring and summer decides to give us in Chicago. And you know, that's what I'll be focused on right now, as well as nourishing the relationships and the people that mean the most to me. So that's what's next for me.
I'm trying to add color to the streets.